Welcome back, subscribers, and welcome new viewers. And I want to thank each and every one of you who have subscribed and who like and share my videos, because that assists in all of my channel and videos circulating to more and more individuals just like you who are searching and seeking and needing this information. So thank you. All right. Today I'm going to read from my Pluto book, those of you who are interested. See that. This is number 8, viewer request, and it is going to be Pluto in the 2nd house or Taurus. And any of you who would like a written copy for me to email that to you, just leave me a comment below and your email address, or send me an email, and I will absolutely do that. And more than any copies that you like from anything that I have read, always my information is down in the drop down box below each and every one of my videos. Okay. And thank you, viewer, who requested this specific reading. Pluto in the 2nd house or Taurus. Pluto in the 2nd house or Taurus indicates a prior evolutionary desire and need to develop self-reliance and self-sufficiency. In the broadest sense, Taurus in the 2nd house correlate to physical and biological survival of the human species. Just as the species has learned to survive physically by identifying the resources necessary to accomplish this, such as learning to make fire, so have these individuals learned how to identify their own personal resources to sustain themselves. Thus, with Pluto in the 2nd house, or Taurus, have an extra strong survival instinct as a result. From a biological standpoint, they have a very strong sexual nature, because a function of survival is to produce the species. Those individuals come into life with an emphasized need to survive and sustain themselves on the physical and therefore emotional plane. They will come into this life with a natural self-reliance and natural self-sufficiency. In prior lives, they have been learning how to identify their own personal needs and needs in order to develop these qualities. Whereas the 1st house Pluto had to initiate action and experience in order for self-discovery to occur, the 2nd house Pluto individual has needed to withdraw into him or herself in past lives, and will naturally gravitate to experiences of withdrawal in this life. By withdrawing, these individuals have internalized their conscious focus in order to discover their own values and needs from within. By remaining rooted or fixed in themselves, these individuals have experienced, sensed, or discovered their own essence as contrasted with the changing flux of circumstances around them. As a result of this process, these individuals commonly come into this life with what I have called frog in the well karma. In other words, the frog in the well has identified a small piece of the sky, that which it can see from the bottom of the well. Furthermore, the frog has identified this small piece of sky as the entire universe. The frog, of course, is quite secure and safe in the bottom of the well. In the same way, these individuals come into this life with a limited vision or knowledge about themselves and life in general. This limited vision is known, familiar, and secure. Thus, there is a reliance upon this limited vision because it works. This reliance upon the past can create an inertia or laziness and a resistance to jumping out of the well. The degree of resistance and limited vision is relative to the mitigating factors determined by the signature of the main karmic evolutionary dynamic in each birth chart. And he's speaking about the South Node. Okay, I'm going to read this part. As an example, if the South Node is in Gemini, the degree of resistance and limited vision would be less severe as contrasted with the South Node in Capricorn. Relative to physical survival. Okay, hold on, I'm just being called. I need to say, for those of you who do not know the importance, the essentialness for each and every one of us as far as our South Nodes are concerned, that is the part of us that when we're born is put or programmed into each and every one of our subconscious. So we do not know consciously what it is or that we even have this South Node. And the South Node is what it's a program, and it makes us automatically feel like, okay, if we do this, this, and this throughout our life, that's how we're going to get our needs met. But it's just a feeling because it's a past. It has to do with past memory, the past, whether you believe in reincarnation or not. It is something from the past that is familiar, and it doesn't work in this life. So you're going to keep cycling, or each and every one of us will keep cycling and doing that South Node because of that belief, that program that says if you do it this specific way, it's going to work. So until we know consciously what that is, that we just keep cycling. And so in order to break free of that cycle, you need to know consciously what your South Node is, what that program at birth is. Okay, so that's what he's talking about. And so again, any of you who do not know what your South Nodes are and you'd like me to find out for you, I need your birth information. So again, all of that birth information to do your natal wheel is in the drop-down box below. And those of you who already know your South Node, because you have your natal wheel, but I haven't done a past viewer request for your specific nodes, and you have two parts. You have the house placement part, which has everything to do with the exact birth time to get that part correct, and all of the planets, of course, in your houses too. So you have that house part, South Node, and then the zodiac pine. No, that was sign and part put together. The zodiac sign part of your South Node as well. So again, if I have not done either or one of those and you would like me to, let me know. Leave me a comment below and let me know which South Node it is that you would like me to do, and I will do a video. Okay. Relative to physical survival, those individuals in a herd state evolutionary condition, tend to identify material values as a vehicle to self-sustainment. We can see the implied limitation here. Others in the individuated evolutionary condition have learned to identify themselves as the resource creating the means to self-sustainment. Those in the spiritual or universal evolutionary condition have learned that the source or universe provides that which they need in order to sustain themselves when one is receptive to that provision. They commonly isolate themselves from the environment and others in order to concentrate upon their relationship to Source. So again, he's saying whatever your south node is, that's what you're going to concentrate on. And again, if you don't know consciously what that is and what that cycle is, then it's imperative for you to find out, because it is connected to this Pluto. Again, all of you who are listening, you're going to have this Pluto, which is Pluto in the second house or Pluto in Taurus. Okay. In all cases, limitation is implied. For those who have related to material values as a means of self-preservation and self-sustainment, the limitations are the values themselves. The material needs and desires for these individuals can be a bottomless pit because they believe that physical security brings emotional security. Relative to the fear of loss intrinsic to Pluto, there is a subconscious fear of losing or not having enough material goods. Possessions and money equal power because of the status that is implied in material wealth. Some of these people are not beyond manipulating the possessions, resources, or money of others in order to gain them for themselves. And there he's speaking about, because Pluto in your second house or in Taurus opposes Pluto, or opposes the 8th house or Scorpio. And that's where he gets that from. Others are not beyond forming vicarious relationships to situations or people who represent or are the embodiment of this kind of power and status. In other words, some of these people have identified that they have these needs and desires, yet are too lazy to make the necessary effort to create the resources for themselves. It is easier not to do so. Instead, they form vicarious relationships to others who have such resources and become extensions of their identities and values. A small percentage of those that manipulate the resources of others to gain those resources for themselves have used very devious or underhanded tactics to do so. A small percentage of those who have made minimal or no efforts to actualize their material needs may live beyond their means, driving the fancy sports car they cannot afford, charging the limit of their credit cards, going into debt. Individuals who have made the necessary effort to actualize their material needs can accumulate vast sums of money and possessions due to the concentration, Pluto, upon the desire and effort. So again, even Pluto, that is your placement of Pluto and the sign position was given to you at birth. So it's not a fault. It's nothing to feel guilty about either. because you're going to be doing these things as well until you know, and until you know your South Node and how that correlates with this Pluto placement. So again, those you who are listening right now, that's what you're doing. You are gaining wisdom. You are wisdom and understanding about yourself and about what you were given at birth. And so from now forward, you can do something different if you wish. You have the information, or you are beginning to understand this information. And again, South Node is very essential for this group. It's essential for each and every one of us because that is our personal work in this life to do. And anyway, I won't go any further on that, but it's a big, big deal. Our South Nodes and working through our South Nodes in this life for each and every one of us. So if that feels right to you and you're ready to take that on, awesome. I'm here if you need any assistance in that area. Okay. With the polarity point being the 8th house or Scorpio, meaning the opposite of the 2nd house and Taurus, the evolutionary intent will lead these individuals into intense internal and external confrontations. Such confrontations will reveal the limitations implied in their value systems, in how they have learned to relate to themselves, and how they have identified the nature of their personal reality, the frog in the well. For those who have amassed wealth, the shock of confrontation will involve the realization that material abundance does not equal happiness or emotional security. The 8th house and Pluto itself evokes or symbolizes the awareness of deeper levels of reality, that there is more to life than material values. Those who used devious means to obtain wealth will be haunted to their graves by a gnawing sense of guilt. Guilt would serve to shine a light upon the internal motivations leading to this situation. This in turn can lead to deep internal shocks of self-knowledge, because these individuals have been typically unconscious of these deeper motivational forces. In other cases, the wealth may be taken from the individual in order to enforce a re-evaluation of their value system. The issue of self-reliance is then experienced in a new way. Under some evolutionary and karmic conditions, individuals with a 2nd house Pluto are born into difficult material conditions of lack in order to enforce lessons of self-reliance. In other cases, some individuals will be born into life situations in which there is wealth linked to the parents, but they are denied the material resources because they are not able to relate to their parents' values or cannot conform to the dictates of the parents' desires. In a few rare cases, the individual can experience the shock of imprisonment if criminal means were used to acquire the material wealth. In other cases, the individual will be made to struggle throughout the entire lifetime for material security. No matter how much effort they put into sustaining themselves, prior karmic causes will dictate that they live or survive on a marginal basis. An overall evaluation of the entire evolutionary karmic issues pertaining to the individual's past must be made in order to understand the reasons why any or all of these conditions exist in this life. So you're going to go through any one of these experiences. And it's going to be different for all of you because you have different south nodal positions. But again, knowing this, consciously bringing this out, and then finding out what your south node position is and what that has to do with and how that has to relate to your Pluto. Because Pluto doesn't care. Pluto is going to get to the bottom. It is like whether it doesn't matter what it upsets, what it does to you as a person. Pluto is going to get to the root of that, whatever that root is that needs to be taken care of, whatever issue that is, whatever program, according to this one, is definitely linked to your south node. So it's that subconscious program. So it's not going to be allowed to continue no matter what. So finding out is imperative. You can't do anything until you find out consciously and bring it into your conscious awareness. And so that's very good. For those who have been living beyond their means, the 8th house polarity will at some point produce shocks of repossession because of the compulsive spending patterns. If material goods are repossessed, or if the individual experiences the increasing pressure to keep making money to pay for these material goods, which are a form of bondage, then at some point, the internal or external shocks experienced may produce the necessary awareness as to why they are operating in this way. So these pains or shocks, it's these internal or external shocks. Through any of this, it's going to pain, and however much pain in these circumstances that is necessary for you to awaken and start seeking information, resources of information about yourself, about your south node, is what it's going to take. And that's what you're going to experience. And again, each and every one of you are different, so you will experience different extremes, and you will cycle, you will go through the cycles of your south node in different, what do I want to say? How do I say that? Some won't have to cycle as much, some will be cycling more. And that's going to be, that's unique as well for each and every one of you. For those who have identified themselves as the resource for self-sustainment, like some talent, capacity, or ability, then the 8th house polarity enforces the lesson of merging with another or others. These individuals must open up to other people or situations through ways in which their own personal limitations and ways of relating to reality are exposed. They will have a deep sense of who they are, and they will relate to themselves and others from this more or less fixed sense of self-definition. This attitude not only produces self-limitation, but also personal isolation. These individuals may have identified their essence, their capabilities, their personal values, but if they do not know how to implement or apply them to forces outside themselves, like society and other people, then the 8th house confrontation of limitation, denial, or isolation will occur. Okay, so what I'm getting is it's all about, you're going to have these painful experiences, so it's about finding out what the reason if you don't already know, if you haven't already done this, and so those of you that are listening, you probably haven't done this because you didn't know. So now you can take a look at those past experiences, or maybe you are right in the middle of one of these types of experiences. And so now you can check and see that in some way it is for your best good. You are, because of the energy of the Pluto that you were born with, that energy is calling these experiences to you so that you can, because you have something to learn, you have something to gain. There is a positive there that will increase you personally on a soul level, to expand you so that you can be freed from something that you're not freed of right now. And again, it has everything to do with your South Node. And that program that is blocking you, that South Nodal program that is blocking you right now. So they are linked in a very, very important, essential way. And now you're getting to know this. So this is awesome. This is awesome. Okay, so it may be wonderful to have natural talent as a potter, for example. Yet if the effort is not made to integrate, apply, or link the ability to societal needs in ways that are compatible with others' value systems, it will not be possible to sustain oneself with that ability. Evolutionary and karmic necessity will create the effect of denying the individual's ability to sustain him or herself relative to the intrinsic capability that they possess in order to do so. Individuals with a spiritual focus must learn to open up to new rituals, techniques, or methods that allow for a further deepening of their spiritual commitment. They must also learn to share their spiritual resources with others in some way, rather than living in isolation and nurturing only themselves. By opening up and sharing themselves, a metamorphosis occurs due to the implied limitations from the past. If they do not learn to open up and share, then the source or universal will cease to provide the material needs necessary to sustain themselves. In addition, the small piece of the universal sky that they have identified from their wells will progressively become filled with the clouds of stagnation. As a result, the deeper inner core of spiritual sustenance will dry up. The resulting inner confrontation can produce the necessary metamorphosis through which these individuals open themselves up to their karmic and evolutionary requirements. South Node. In all cases, the 8th house polarity point demands a confrontation with personal limitations. The frog must be forced from the well to expose it to the full light of day. This process occurs by forcing the individual in upon itself in some way to examine the internal dynamics that are creating these life situations. Thus, they are being forced out from the well to examine the larger and deeper forces at work within them. The motivational patterns and the reasons for those motivational patterns, their desires and the reasons for those desires, how they have been relating to themselves and why they have been relating to themselves in that way, what resources they have identified with in order to sustain themselves, and why those resources and what personal values they have identified with and why those particular values. By doing so, these individuals create the potential for a total metamorphosis. And again, that's what Pluto is about, right? Transformation, death and rebirth. And ending something that isn't working, that is destructive in some way, or stopping or blocking in some way, to begin something brand new that is completely foreign to you and right now at this moment, but it will expand you, transform you, to bring about a totally new way of relating to themselves, others, and reality in general. In this way, these individuals can adopt redefined value systems that allow for the necessary growth to occur. This natural evolutionary process occurs in such a way that these individuals subconsciously draw or attract life situations in which they experience the limitations associated with their value systems, needs, self-image, and the ways that they have been relating to themselves and others. The personal implosion that this produces forces the individual to examine all of these dynamics in order to find out why they have identified themselves in a particular manner. Progressively, these individuals will learn to unite their own resources and lives with others so that a personal transformation can occur, a transformation of limitations. Because of the implied inertia of the evolutionary past, changes occur slowly. Most of these individuals need to know why the change prior to making the change. This is what you're doing. And seeking your South Node, bringing out into your conscious awareness that program which you were given that doesn't work, that limits you, that blocks you in this life, will tell you why and what's going on in your specific situation of whatever Pluto has been, the painful situations, that these different situations, because it's going to be different for all of you. Okay. Very, very big. Okay. This fixity creates the potential for internal or external atom bombs or cataclysmic upheavals through which the landscape is utterly transformed. Because of the evolutionary intent of the 8th house polarity point, those with Pluto in the 2nd house will attract, at key points in life, intense and powerful people. These people will be timely messengers that deliver or create the necessary encounters and confrontations of personal limitations. These intense encounters will allow the individual to experience him or herself negatively and positively in the ways that they are hung up or blocked. The potential for growth exists if the individual is willing to transform and jump out of the well of personal limitations. And again, the personal limitation is each and every one of ours. It's our south nodes of the moon. These key people will have the ability to understand or see the source of the limitation that has blocked the individual. By focusing upon it, they can help the 2nd house Pluto person to grow and evolve, to relate to themselves and others in new ways, and to link themselves to new or redefined values. These key people will promote self-effort and self-reliance in the second house Pluto person, rather than promoting dependency upon themselves. If and when other powerful people show up in the second house Pluto person's life who promote dependency upon them, then the individual should not get involved with them in any way. Let me read that again. Because you are seeking independence, not dependency. So anyone who is telling you to follow them and anything like that, there is saying, don't do it, don't do it. Let me read that. Okay, let me read that one more time. These key people will promote self-effort and self-reliance in the second house Pluto person. That's what you want, rather than promoting dependency upon themselves. If and when other powerful people show up in the second house Pluto person's life who promote dependency on them, then the individual should not get involved with them in any way. If he or she invests too much power in or gives too much power to either type of person, then the 8th house polarity point of Pluto will guarantee that a forced removal of that person from the individual's life will occur in order to enforce the ongoing lessons in self-reliance and self-sufficiency. So, okay, what that says is, even if you do have someone, because you're going to have powerful people coming into your lives, they're going to encourage both self-reliance, and some might encourage dependency on them as gurus or teachers or whatever that is. So you absolutely, you don't, if you put dependency on them, or even those that are encouraging you to be self-reliant. So if you put too much of your energy into either one, they'll be taken from you. So it's really important, that's going to be your own personal determination of how that fits in these powerful people that come into your lives or have in the past. Some of you probably can even know what they were and how they affected you, and if you gave them too much energy or not. So, okay. Individuals with Pluto in the second house have strong physical and sexual natures. Evolution takes place when they learn to merge and unite with another on an emotional basis, rather than approaching sexual activity in an essentially masturbatory way by using another for physical, sexual gratification and release. So again, don't feel bad, don't feel guilty, because you could have done this in the past or doing this, but you didn't know. So now you have this information. It's about a deeper relationship, sexual relationship, and understanding about sex and all of that. So, okay, I'm just checking the time. We still have, okay, because I've got to read more quickly before I don't want my video to stop without me saying goodbye and finishing. Okay. It should be understood that the emotional power of Pluto in the second house naturally leads to strong physical and sexual needs for these people. Again, the second house is an archetype that correlates to the instinctual impulse to procreate the human species. When this instinctual impulse is linked to self-reliance, the result will be a strong masturbatory nature in these individuals when they are not involved in a relationship. The natural emotional buildup of the energy of Pluto in any house demands cyclical release through that house or its polarity house in order for emotional stability to occur. If it is not cyclically released, then emotional distortion and loss of perspective can occur in all aspects of the individual's life. Pluto in the second house then demands that this emotional buildup of energy be released in physical, sexual ways. Even when these individuals are involved with another, it is not uncommon for them to still need to masturbate anyway, because masturbation is a means through which these people ground out with themselves. So this is very positive to do that for all of you, or those of you that see this to be true for yourself. Okay, let me see here. It is a way to continue the evolutionary lessons in self-reliance and self-sufficiency. So yes, each and every one of you who have Pluto in the second house or in Taurus, this is very good for you. Self-reliance, yes, to release those pent-up sexual energies, because if you aren't able to do that, then they will come out in a negative way, angrily or in some negative way that is going to be destructive for you and others possibly as well. So this is a part of it's keeping yourself healthy, is what I'm seeing. Okay, so let's see here. The point here is that this phenomena is natural for these folks, and it should not be judged nor subjected to behavioral modification. Some individuals with Pluto in the second house have or will use their sexual emotional power to possess, use, or manipulate others. They may withhold sexual activity from another, or they may use their sexual nature to gain something from someone. In extreme cases, this can translate into notches on the belt, as these types go through one sexual partner after another. This phenomenon occurs so that these people can prove their emotional and personal power to themselves. When compulsion and obsession occur relative to physical, emotional, sexual needs, some of these individuals will become almost singularly focused upon sexual images, taboos, and symbols. Obviously, this situation implies a limitation. At some point in their lives, an emotional shock and confrontation will occur to metamorphose this behavior and emotional physical orientation. Individuals who are in the spiritual or universal evolutionary state must learn various rituals or techniques that use the energy of sexual union to promote a transcendence of the physical plane. In other words, to link themselves with the appropriate techniques, methods, or rituals that teach them how to use the sexual emotional energy experienced during sexual activity to expand their consciousness. An example of these techniques and rituals can be found in the ancient tradition of Tantric Yoga, which originated in Tibet. The Kama, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but Kama Sutra of India and Taoist yoga techniques from China are other traditions that approach sexuality in this way. Once the second house Pluto individual begins to effect the necessary evolutionary and karmic requirements of the 8th house polarity point, the results will translate into an individual who not only understands their limitations, but who will consciously make the effort to unite with the appropriate activities that will promote the required